welcome back to another episode of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, creator, host, film critic, pain in the butt. You can find my interviews and reviews at 147 print and online outlets around the globe, locally in Los Angeles, Culver City Observer, Santa Monica Observer, British Weekly, and others. And then up and down the eastern seaboard, down in the southern United States, and then even over in Moscow, in China, South Africa. But every Monday you can find me with my cohort, Brian, here every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Adrenaline Radio.
I'm going to assume cohort is a nice word.
I'm using it in a very nice way.
Okay.
Yes. Not in the criminal sense.
Okay.
I could have said partner in crime.
Well, that's fine. Let's not incriminate ourselves on there.
We've seen enough of that this past week with the Olympics and Ryan Lochte. I know,
that is nuts.
That is.
We're not a sports show or cover any of that, but wow, that was crazy watching all that kind of come out.
Well, and then I heard this morning Speedo has dropped him. Ralph Lauren pulled him from their website and any mention of him. And either Mark or Mike Gannis, who is a known sports business expert, was saying he's done. This is the kiss of death because not only was his apology lame, but he still hasn't told the truth about what happened.
Yeah, and you're in a visiting country too.
Yeah.
You behave yourself. You're representing.
And the fallout, they did put on a very well done Olympics. Okay, we won't talk about the green pool, but this just perpetuated the idea of crime and safety when in fact that was not the case. So that's very disturbing, very disturbing. And there will be a film made about this event one day, I'm sure. What say you, Brian?
About the film or about the whole entire incident?
I think they'll make a film about it.
Yeah, in the future. Yeah. If not a 30 for 30 with ESPN, we'll probably cover this also.
A 30 for 30 may be, that may be something that...
because these Rio Olympics were there's so many stories coming out of there leading up to. I mean, I can see ESPN picking this up immediately. If not in the next 2 years, it'll be a 30 for 30 just of the Rio games. The corruption that was leading up to the games with the country itself to trying to scramble to put the games together. And then, to top it off with faking a bathroom incident.
And who is one of the producers of the 30 for 30 shows? Eva Longoria.
That's right, yeah.
Because I talked to her on the LA Film Festival opening night red carpet. Not about films, but about 30 for 30. So I would love to see that happen. To have ESPN do a 30 for 30 on it.
Even if I have no interest in the content that the 30 for 30 film is, I'll watch it just because I've not seen a bad one. I've not seen a poorly done. I mean, there might be. I might rank them, and that's different. But every single one of them is incredible.
Yeah,
every single one.
And cinematographer Sam Levy, who I did an interview with earlier this year, and we already played excerpts of that on here. That I believe it was a 30 for 30 that Sam got an Emmy nomination for the episode that he did in the past. So, good stuff happens, and somehow everything winds up in film and TV, including our very special guest today, who'll be joining us at the halfway mark, Monika Henreid. You know the name, Henreid. You know her father, Paul Henreid. Victor Laszlo in Casablanca, Jerry Dorrance in Now Voyager. And Monika is going to join us live, talk about her dad and this incredible project that she's doing. She is making a documentary, Paul Henreid Beyond Victor Laszlo. So I cannot wait to talk to her about that. And unbeknownst to so many of you, not the TCM and the classic film fans out there, because I know a lot of you are listening right now, but Paul Henreid was even, I think, more acclaimed behind the camera as a director. And he made the segue from film into television beautifully. And ironically, Westerns were some of his big forte in television directing. I know many, many stuntmen who were actually directed by Paul, and came as a shock to them 30 years ago when they would tell me about these episodes and say they worked with this director, and I know who Paul, Henreid is, and some of them were astounded because they were unfamiliar with the breadth of his actual acting work back in the 40s. So everything comes full circle. Everything comes full circle. So it's going to be exciting to talk to Monika about her documentary and what she's up to with that and how we can help with that documentary. We're going to, in a little bit, we're going to hear more from what Jack Huston had to say about his family legacy and the history of Ben-HUR, as well as Rodrigo Santoro. I had a very, very intense and wonderful interview with one-on-one interview with Rodrigo, talking about his role as Jesus Christ in Ben-HUR. Rodrigo is always a joy. Every film that he does press for, we always manage to get a sit-down one-on-one together, and that happened again with Ben-HUR. So that was beyond lovely. But before we get into anything else, we must do Brian's favorite segment of the show.
You know,
Yes.
whenever we have somebody in studio,
Yes.
or on the phone, well, we've never done it with the phone, but when I tell people about this segment, they crack up. They really do, and I take it extremely seriously.
I
If
know.
it sounds like I'm kidding around, you have it all wrong. I love this.
I know you do.
I do. So if my excitement is taken as a joke, I need you to understand that it's not.
Oh, no, I know it's no joke.
I know you know that it's not a joke, but I just don't want it to come across as one. I love looking at the countdown because, as I say, it's 7 days less than last week, and we're getting closer and closer to it. And the excitement's starting to build.
And when we turn the clock, well, then we're going to add another hour when we turn the clocks back an hour in the fall.
Do we add an hour? Oh, no. So that means I'm further away from it.
You'll be an hour.
Well, from Star Wars Episode 8,
Yes?
we have 479 days, 12 hours, 51 minutes, and as soon as I'm done speaking the sentence, 47 seconds to go. That's close. I can't wait to hit the 365 mark. We should actually have cupcakes that day when it gets close to the 1 year
We should have
anniversary.
Star Wars cupcakes.
Yeah, but you know what? We should have cupcakes for sure, same day, for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. 115 days, 12 hours and 51 minutes to go for that one.
Wow.
That, I mean, I've had a lot of things going on this year. When you look at it, you mark down dates. This one's approaching. This one's getting here. Rogue One is here.
In another 2 weeks, it's going to be 100 days.
Exactly, yeah. And we'll be here, I think, when it's 101.
Yes.
We'll be here when 101. And that's exciting. And there's things coming out for Rogue One now. There's...
Yes, we were talking about that before we went live. It's just been announced today. A lot of the product placement deals that are going to be coming out for Rogue One. We saw it with Star Wars. We see it with every film anymore. The product placement beyond the actual merchandising and the toys. For Rogue One, interesting partnership here. There's going to be some kind of product placement merchandising partnership with Duracell. So, and Brian has informed me he does not buy batteries, but if there's something in the packaging about Rogue One, he's going to buy batteries.
When I envision this, obviously, if Disney's listening, make it happen. I'm picturing a little battery with Kylo Ren on it. Maybe even a specially themed battery, like there's a dark side battery where the entire battery is red, and then there's a light side, or the right side, as I was saying.
Interesting possibilities.
That would be awesome. I'd love to have that hanging on my wall, along with some of the stuff that you've given me over the past with Star Wars merchandise that I have. I think that would be the best thing. I don't know.
Of course, General Mills. There is always some kind of partnership with General Mills, so expect to see Rogue One cereal.
Gotta have my cereal.
You've got to have your cereal. And then Gillette razors. That should be interesting, but they also make other products.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and I have to think about this, is, they make deodorants, but when you look at the images that have come out of Rogue One so far, they're either not using any soap and water to get clean because they all look perpetually dirty, or they're using a lot of Gillette deodorant products to survive around each other.
Just the galaxy beyond is full of Gillette products. So
Obviously.
it's good to see them finally be represented on film. Hopefully they come out.
And of course then Nissan. I'm curious to see how that's going to come into play.
I'm in the market for a new vehicle, and by that I mean I don't have money for a car. So let's see what they come out, because I'm interested. Again, shout out Nissan if you're listening. A car, all red, half side red. Kylo Ren's face on the side, the other side blue. Rey's face on the other side. Make it happen, all right? Oh, and on the no wait, this is for Rogue One. This is a red side. Let's do
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk. I need something with Alan Tudyk in it. Oh, I need a battery shaped like Alan Tudyk. I don't know what product it's gonna fit. Make it happen, Duracell. I'm the person who's gonna spend money on your product.
Brian really is the person who will spend money on these products. So definitely.
There it is.
Definitely.
I mixed up my Star Wars stories there, but yeah, Rogue One. Oh, and then what's the last one? There's another one after that, right?
I forget the Verizon.
Verizon.
So I'm very excited because for once, maybe there will be some Verizon product placement for Star Wars so that I can actually get a phone case for my Samsung and Verizon phones.
Last year with the release of Episode 7 with Verizon, they had a cool thing going where they were releasing Google Cardboard Box.
And yes, and I got one.
I think you got the C-3PO and R2-D2 one, right? Yeah. And I forget which characters they had, but if you've never heard of Google Cardboard, really quickly, it makes your phone a 3D machine.
Yep.
It's incredible. You download the app and you can take tours of France. You can fly over cities with Google Maps. You can watch YouTube videos that are created in 3D and turn around. I was watching a Star Wars one actually recently where they were parodying Star Wars, and you can walk around the landscape that they were filming at. So you didn't necessarily have to have the focus on the camera or even the person that's on screen speaking. You can walk around. It's incredible. So I hope they do something like this again.
That would be really cool, yeah, because I know I could only try it out at the super secret press event before Star Wars 7 came out. And of course, I got my free one. And who do I give it to? I give it to Brian, because he will cherish it.
Yeah.
And use it.
You're going to give me the Rogue One one? If you get
yes.
one? Oh, okay. All right.
I will.
Okay, sweet.
I will.
Alan Tudyk version. Listen, Verizon, you're listening? I need a phone shaped like Alan Tudyk. Please make it happen.
Yes, we have great love for Alan Tudyk here.
He's called in.
Yes, he has.
And he called in himself, and he talked to me, and he was the nicest person. Just the sweetest person. And he did his King Candy for me, and he also... couldn't speak about Rogue One. We tried.
I know.
We tried to get some information out of him,
but
all he can say was that yes, he's in it.
Yes.
That's it. That's all he was able to speak about.
But he talked at great length about Con Man, which if nobody has seen the Con Man series, please see it. It is hilarious, and they're doing season 2, and it's Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion. And since we no longer have Castle, this is how we get to keep track of Nathan Fillion.
General Mills.
No.
Alan Tudyk cereal, please. Okay, there I'm going.
Okay, well, we're not going to see Ryan Lochte on any cereal boxes, so let's replace athletes with Rogue One characters. But let's get to serious business here, which is going behind the lens, and we're going to start off an absolutely beautiful film that opens this week. It's called Southside with You. And while the bulk of today's show is all about classic film and history, Southside with You is in and of itself a piece of history. It is a fictionalized version based on known facts of Michelle and Barack Obama's very first date. And much as we heard Bill Clinton talk about the difficulty he had in getting Hillary to go on a date with him, it seems Barack Obama had the same difficulty in getting Michelle to go out with him. But the movie is absolutely charming. It is written and directed by Richard Tanne. Brilliantly done. It is such a beautiful character study of a moment in time. I can't recommend it highly enough. I didn't know what to expect when I saw it. But then I had the good fortune, I did the press day and had a chance to talk to Richard, executive producer John Legend, Tika Sumpter, who plays Michelle. Parker Sawyers, who plays Barack Obama. And let me tell you, if you have not seen Parker Sawyers do any of, he's known for, he does a lot of impressions, and he's very, very good. You forget that you are watching an actor playing Barack Obama. There is no parody, there is no caricature, but it is nevertheless, he has the very essence of Obama, and he does have some of the hand gestures and the vocal hesitation and elocution and inflection. It is an incredible performance. And then, of course, as Marion Robinson, Vanessa Bell Calloway, who has been around in anything and everything, but I still love her best in Daylight with Sylvester Stallone. But let's take a listen to my brief conversation at the press day with our cast and crew of Southside with You.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate all of you. This is an exquisite film. You have really set the bar for the best non-date first date ever. There will be many problems to come in the future with couples now because of what you have shown everybody. I want to ask all of you, it's very unusual for a film to be made about a sitting president, let alone a very personal story such as this. Was there any kind of trepidation or concern as you were moving forward with the film into delving into this subject matter based on many of the stories that the Obamas themselves have told that we know about, and then embodying the characters so that it was an embodiment, not a caricature?
Yeah. Rich, do you want to answer the first part?
Well, I think the answer to the first question for me in sort of getting the idea and then sitting down to write it, and then the MO in making the movie was there. If I was a smarter person, there would have been more trepidation. But I just didn't consider the political ramifications or the grander sort of journalistic questions that might arise, because I was just so compelled by that one day and by their relationship in general, just the way that they look at each other, the way that they flirt. There's a special connection between the president and the first lady, and it's a rare thing in people that you just hang out with in life, and it's even rarer in public figures. So I just sort of dove in and said, well, we're just going to worry about creating this moment in time, and we're gonna work on an evolving connection between two people, and we'll let you as the viewer bring your own sort of relationship with the people that we see on TV every night and read about every day. You can bring that to it, and that's an extra layer. But we'll just all focus on the love story, and then I think that extended to Tika and Parker embodying the characters.
Yeah, I mean, we never, from the very beginning, we never wanted to do a parody or a caricature or imitation. It was always very clear that we wanted to embody the essence of who they are or were at that time. So Rich made sure when we were on set that, if it was too much Barack or if it was too much Michelle or too heavy on the tone of our voices, or he always pulled us back. He knew exactly what he wanted vision-wise, and then we trusted that. And I think everything, including, Vanessa's character, being Marion and the set design and all of it kind of lended itself to inform you who these people were. Seeing the bungalow, seeing his car with the hole in it, seeing his cassette, seeing, all these things kind of brought together, contributed to both characters so that we didn't have to layer it on too much. We just wanted to humanize them, basically.
Yeah, and speaking to humanizing them, I mean, he was a law student, he was an intern, and he was just a guy trying to get a girl in the summer of '89. And so as long as I focused on that and played the truth of the scene and just made sure, I was flirty and playful and let my intentions be known, then it was a little easier not to go into the caricature.
And I think there will be a lot of Obama art created inspired by the Obama's life and his presidency. And if you were going to try to do kind of a sweeping biopic about these two amazing people, you'd probably need a little more perspective and distance from their presidency. But this actually, there is a lot of distance between their first date and now. and there's plenty of perspective about what they've become. And I think it was brilliant of Richard to come up with the idea of just focusing on this one moment in time at the beginning of the relationship. Now that we've seen what they've become, now we can see how that started out.
And as, trying to embody the mother, I really had to do a lot of work because we don't see or hear a lot of her. So Rich turned me on to some video and some interviews, and then I read some of her son's book to get an idea of, her tonality and who she was and, her perspective. So you just have to, try to do the homework.
And you got to hear a little bit from everybody about their take on Southside with You. So, highly recommend it. It is a beautiful film. It is beautifully shot. And it's timeless. So, see it. It's in theaters this Friday. Now, let's jump to Ben-HUR and start going into classic film and classic history. And there is nothing more historical than the story of Christ or these five incarnations now of Ben-HUR. Last week you heard a little bit from Jack Huston and Toby Kebbell about how the chariot racing was done in the new Ben-HUR. Now I'm going to let you hear about my conversation with Rodrigo Santoro as he stepped into the role of Christ, and particularly one of the most powerful scenes you will ever see on film, the crucifixion. I have to ask you about the crucifixion scene. Mm-hmm. Number one, I know you were shooting in the cold because I could see breath coming out of everybody.
It was freezing.
Walk me through that experience of that crucifixion scene. It is one of the most powerful I've ever seen.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because it was powerful to me. It was powerful. The experience was very powerful. The process starts from the day that I got the offer to play the part. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that came to my mind was the crucifixion, of course, because just the meaning that it has, it defined, it defines society. It's before and after that moment. So the importance of that. With that comes fear, with that comes anxiety, with that comes, oh my God, how do I do that? Literally. The night before, the week before, I started to feel anxious about that moment, which was expected, and I dealt with it. It started to get really cold and it snowed, like 2 days before it started to snow, and I'm like, my God, how am I going to do this? Are they going to cancel? So the forecast for the day was sunny. It was perfect conditions, but it was freezing. It was just cold, very cold and windy. So I knew that. The night before, couldn't sleep, which I expected, but also at 1:30, they picked me up and I went to makeup. So I had the whole night, like 6 hours and a half, doing my whole body, doing the makeup. Around 8 o'clock, they drove me up the mountain, and I arrived on set. They had a hut, warm. I was wrapped around this big thermal sort of like sheet, whatever it was. And then I had a conversation with Timur, and he said, Rodrigo, it's really freezing out there. We built this structure that they blow hot air. They could do between takes. And when he said between takes, I asked him not to do takes. I asked, can we do it in one take? He goes like, well, it depends how you feel, maybe if we're able to get everything. I'm like, let me go through a couple of times in one take. Let's not reset it. So at least I go through the experience one time, and then you take me out of there. Because of the cold, because of the moment itself, I wanted to give it all as much as possible. And we did that. We did a 20, they say, Timur said, is the longest take I've ever done. It's a 21-minute take, straight.
He doesn't do takes that long.
Yeah, so that's, if you have an opportunity to talk to him, you will tell him that was the only way I found to do that in that circumstances, with the cold, with, the scene itself. So just whenever I'm up there, let me go through it and let's cut when when I finish doing a couple of times and we get it what we have to get. I don't remember exactly what happened because somehow I was just freezing, my body was freezing, and my brain started to freeze and I couldn't think straight, which at first I started to sort of like panic. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be able to deliver my lines? And then my brain started to go crazy, and then suddenly it started to calm down. And I think it was a blessing because not to think was so good. So it was so helpful because I went up there and I said, you know what? And now I'm going to just go to that place that I've been practicing, which is inside, and be truly connected to my heart as much as possible. I'm going to say it the way it comes. I just want to access that place, that human, very human place that I have within me, where I can feel the biggest love, this place of like true, pure, and just inside my humanity, with my own limitations. I'm not gonna try to be Jesus Christ. I am not, and I just need to recreate this moment and to express what I understand and what I feel, this moment was and what he was trying to say. There was mental research, which I knew all the different theories on this line. When he said that, he meant that. When he talks to his mother, he doesn't call her by the name because he's protecting her from the Romans. He didn't. My mind went everywhere, and then I just shut down and then let it flow. That was my experience during this moment, and I have beautiful flashes of that moment up there, and it's I would never be able to describe. I just would never be able to give you like the feeling that is, that is like to be up there, and the meaning of it, the true meaning of it, and really trying to feel compassion and love and but being just a guy, just a human being, just an actor, there with the characterization. And it's crazy because you're pretending to be something very. It's too deep to really grasp. It's not rational. It's something that you just give yourself. You give yourself, okay, here I am. I will do my best. I will be my best. And here's my heart. That's it. It's the most I could do in that situation.
And I'm sure you can hear it in Rodrigo's voice, the passion that he had for the role, for the performance, and for that specific scene. And sitting there with him and just watching him, I can't tell you what it was like. You could just feel this essence that he had of pure joy. And it was very humbling listening to him, and he was very humbled by the experience. So I hope that you all do go see Ben-HUR. And speaking of Ben-HUR, let's get back to Jack Huston. And since we're going to have Monika Henreid here with an illustrious family legacy, Jack Huston has one as well. So I had a chance to ask him about that family history when he was shooting on Cinecittà Studios for Ben-HUR.
Your family history, did you ever feel that while you were performing in Cinecittà in Italy? I mean, your grandfather shot the Bible.
Yeah, he
for
did.
God's sakes.
Yeah. That's it. 7 years after this one, it was. I mean, what a place. I mean, when you find out you're playing Judah Ben-HUR, that's a pretty special day. But then you find out where you're going to be shooting it too. That was and that really is special to me because you feel the history at every turn in that studio. Like, it hasn't changed much. It's like you're on the sound stages, you know who were filmed on these sound stages. You know the actors, the titans who are there before you. And in a way that sort of carries you through each day. Because, this was a brutal shoot. Like, we really went there with it. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. But it's always nice when you sort of feel like one's ancestors and sort of like the greater sense of ancestors. I'm talking about all those people in a sense that sort of watching down on you. And it was, and by the way, you know, the great thing was we shot it there that like my makeup guy, Luigi Ricchetti, his father worked on the original Ben-Hur. His first film set he ever went on to, well, not the original, the 59 version, was that Ben-Hur, was the first film set he ever went on to. There were lots of guys from the crew who had been a part of that. And it's like, that's such a cool thing because it was, everyone was, it was such an homage to the great book and to the idea and that we're bringing it to a new audience. So, you know, it was a very special time.
And a very special time indeed. So I also got to talk to Jack. We're a little out of order with the clips here. We're juggling things. But I also asked him about assuming this role in and of itself and what that meant to him. And yes, you will hear me blatantly admit, and many of you will disagree with me, but my love for this performance.
I'm going to say something that every classic film fan that I know within the TCM realm is going to hate me for. But given with the script that you have and your performance, I will watch you over Charlton Heston any day of the week as Judah Ben-Hur.
Well, if this is how the rest of the day is going to go, stop.
If this role was tailor-made for you, given your lineage, given your upbringing on the side of both your parents, but the youthful exuberance that you bring to Judah Ben-Hur, we see and feel the brotherly love and his transformation as he hits rock bottom and then pulls himself back up.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because I'm someone who loved the 59 version and I know the family, funny enough, very well. And that, while being a story about revenge, this is and Charlton Heston approached the role in a much more sort of manly way. Like when you first find him, it was the rivalry was already there, and it turned into the revenge story. This, which was so lovely, is when I got the script, I read it and I was like, oh, it's completely been reimagined, and it's taken back. That actually I found the character in the beginning is sort of a lost boy. And through circumstance and the betrayal and the rest of it, he sort of does exactly do that, hits rock bottom, and you see such a transformation right through to the end. And also you're given this really lovely backstory of that these two brothers loved each other in such a strong way. You actually see that backstory between the two of us. It was great because Toby's such a great actor and like a really good friend, so we really worked on that. We wanted that because that's, in a sense, got to carry you all the way through to the end of the movie. So yeah, it was, you look for great characters. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better one. And if, as an actor, you want to go on a journey, and this takes you there. Like, whatever you say, you can't not go there for this role. And it's like, that's sort of the best part about the job is when you find something which you feel you can fully immerse yourself in every way and actually go on a journey of self-exploration yourself. And I felt like that was what happened.
And that is what happened. So, again, see Ben-Hur. But in the meantime, joining us right now is Monika Henreid. Are you there, Monika?
I am indeed.
Oh, welcome. This is an absolute treat to have you join the show today.
Thank you.
I am just blown over by the documentary that you're doing about your dad. But also, I have to tell you that since I was about 10 years old, now Voyager, my number one film.
Yes. Well, it became quite popular. It has become quite popular.
And it seems that it has a resurgence with a whole new generation as we're counting down to the 75th anniversary.
Absolutely. That's the thing about good storytelling. If you've got a good story and you tell it well and you fill it full of talented performers and craftsmen, you end up with a film that can keep coming back.
Casablanca has never left the forefront, but now Voyager kind of, it took a step back there, but for Die Hard, that is a romance movie in the truest sense of the word.
Absolutely. It makes one want to wish that they had brought stock in Kleenex.
Oh my God. I can't make it, to this day, I can't make it through that movie without crying. It's I admit it. It is impossible. But, let me ask, you have described your dad as a gentleman, and a gentle man.
Yes.
And I think that is it is just so beautiful. And we saw that on screen, but to hear that from his daughter who knew him behind the facade of film.
Yeah, he was really quite an extraordinary person. Complicated beyond belief sometimes, but he was both of those things. He was the consummate gentleman. He was always polite. He was always gracious. He was always charming. And he was basically a gentle human being.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's every film I've ever seen your dad in always makes me think of my grandfather who grew up in Goslar, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that European, the manners, the politeness, and the gentility.
Yes.
And it's just it's beautiful. Beautiful.
It is. I'd like to run across more of it.
Oh, you and me both.
I know. Yeah.
Now, what is it that, what has prompted you to want to make the documentary on your father? We have, we just heard Jack Huston. Jack is, now third generation of Hollywood. But he's not out there making documentaries and things about his dad, his grandfather, or his great-grandfather. We have so many. Drew Barrymore isn't out there making stories about her family. Very few people step up to tell a story from a very particular perspective. And I'm fascinated that you're doing this, but also because of the story that you are actually telling.
Well, I think in the case of Hustons and Barrymores, you have legendary families, and you have lots of companies that have already, shall we say, covered the territory.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be the A&E biographies, and there were documentaries being made by any number of companies for a very long time. And I think we've learned those stories, and we've acknowledged that extraordinary path that those families took. In the case of my father, no one has done a documentary about him, and anybody could. He was a public person. He was out there like any other movie star, but they can't tell this story. They can't tell it from this point of view, And I think he was an amazing man, and he lived an amazing life. And I don't live in Los Angeles anymore. And when I popped in and out over the last few years, people have said to me, well, gee, what did your dad do when he retired from being an actor? And I was just blown away that people within the industry itself did not know that he had directed over 30 Hitchcocks and over 300 episodes of television.
Your dad, one of the most prolific television directors.
He was. He was. And again, it's one of those things that even people within the industry don't know. And God bless the fans, because they're the ones who are reading the credits now and acknowledging it and coming back to me through social media saying, oh, wow, I just saw, such and such. I just saw a Big Valley, or I just saw a Maverick, or I just saw whatever. I didn't realize your dad did this. It's I'd seen this one before, and I didn't realize your dad directed it. And I thought, well, maybe now's the time. I have to step up to the plate and do this. And it does coincide rather beautifully with the 75th anniversary of both Now Voyager and Casablanca.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be ready and available next year.
I mean, I am chomping at the bit. I can't wait.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you.
Because I've been perusing the website for a while, looking to see if you have any updates or things like that. And some of the information that you are imparting, the fact that he was blacklisted, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and not in just one country, but 3. That's got to be a Guinness record, I think.
And for 3 different reasons.
It's just, and those are the kind of things that history books aren't going to tell you.
No. And it's interesting too, because talking to the fans, who, by the way, I adore the fans. My father's fans are just so wonderful and so gracious and so connected and committed to him. It's just, I'm thrilled to pieces. But again, it's just fascinating what is known and what is not known. And I think that's, that it sort of makes me continue. I do try to post things. I am, as my daughter says, I am technologically challenged. So working with a computer is a love-hate relationship. And I do what I can to get information out there, and things are beginning to move along. As they say, the train has left the station, and we're getting ready to run a first edit on the film, so it's getting pretty exciting. But as far as the storytelling goes, I mean, he was just an amazing, complicated man, and he was an amazing, yeah.
So how do you, when you decide that you're going to make this documentary, and you know your father like no other, how do you decide, how do you pick your approach for the documentary? Did you sit and rough it out, or did you decide, well, we've got to include films. Well, I want to include some home movies. Well, what was that process like for you to actually come up with your narrative through line in the documentary?
Well, okay, actually that came quite easily and quite organically, if I can put it that way. And I've been a filmmaker for a long time, so this isn't like my first time at bat or anything like that. This really came out of family and going back home to Vienna and visiting with my son at a very difficult time in his life. And, well, to be honest, his wife had just passed away, so it was really difficult. And when I stayed there to be there with him, and his life was readjusting and so on, this is really the first time I spent time in Vienna as an adult by myself for a long period of time. And I thought, gee, I'm going to go and investigate the places and the stories my father told, all of my childhood, all of my growing up. And I found things to be fascinating and amazing. I went into archives. I went into family histories. I went into the film archives, the city archives, just everywhere I could. And it's a deep, deep, deep relationship, because not only was my father raised in Vienna, so was my mother. So there's a huge history there on both sides of the family. And when I realized that I really wanted to tell this story, it told me that I should tell it in the sense of discovery. In other words, I will narrate this film, but you will never see me on the screen because I'm you. I want you to discover what I discovered as I discovered it. So that's the point of view. And once you go down that path, then it's fairly easy. That's not really the right word, but it makes it possible and viable to pick the pieces of the story to tell. And of course, it's like you always overtell, and you find too many photographs and too many film clips, and then you kind of pull it down until it tells you, well, this is the story you're telling.
Do you have any idea how much information you amassed in research to go through, to cull down for the film?
Have you got a couple days? There's so much material. There's so much material. There's 47 feature films. There's 7 films he directed. There's over 300 episodes of television. There's endless home movies, because my father loved cameras and gadgets and always had the newest. And my mother was the one who said, take a picture, Paulie. Yeah, take another picture, Paulie. And if that was like every day. Playing tennis, riding horses, swimming in the pool, learning how to ride a bike. It's all there.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. He was a bustler. That means like a handyman, a craftsman. He loved to do things, so he had to have all the newest cameras and all the newest toys that went with it.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
oh, yeah.
in this discovery, are there things that you found that you had completely forgotten or that were totally new to you?
Things I had forgotten, yes, most definitely. I don't think new to me. It was more reminders. You know, it was more, actually, amazingly, last Wednesday night, I had dinner with two guys who literally grew up across the street from me the first 21 years of my life. And we sat and talked and laughed for about 6 hours because each one of us would tell a story which would remind someone of another story. And what was the most interesting to me was listening to their perspective of coming to our house to swim. We all swam in each other's pools, but there was I guess, we had the biggest pool on the block. We had the tennis court. We had whatever. And these two guys sat there talking to me on Wednesday night just saying, oh, do you remember that time we were all playing Flash Gordon? And I'm thinking, oh, my God. Yes, I guess I do if I think about it well enough, you know.
And as your face is turning bright red.
Completely. Completely.
Did you, when you were growing up, did you realize the magnitude of who your father was, Monika?
No, not a clue.
You know, I was just talking to Bryce Dallas Howard the other week, and something similar came up, and she said the same thing. She had no clue. It never occurred to her, really, who the legend of Ron Howard is.
Right, and that's part of the thing. When you grow up in a normal, and I say, you know, normalized family. We were a normal family.
Mm-hmm.
We were a European family living in Los Angeles. And the surroundings were family and friends. There were no paparazzi. There was no craziness. It was just a normal family. So when someone says to me, oh, what was it like growing up, the daughter of a movie star? I mean, my answer is, I don't know, because I have nothing to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
We just had, you know, we had breakfast in the morning and we went to school. And, you know, yes, we traveled, which was very nice, but, you know, it wasn't extraordinary because most of the kids of the families that we knew who were friends did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. It's not like what we see today and that has been happening over the past 10 to 15 years with quote-unquote celebrity families.
No, not at all. And my parents weren't like that anyway. For my father, a job was a job. He never considered himself a celebrity. I mean, he loved the acknowledgement and the, you know, to a certain extent, adoration. He did have some very traditional old school European ways about him where he didn't understand the extremely verbal and extremely physical approach of fans. He didn't understand that. I mean, there was a time in his life when Casablanca and Now Voyager were out at the same time where women were literally attacking him and tearing his clothes a la, you know, Frank Sinatra rock and roll stars. And he didn't understand that at all, and he really didn't care for it. But because he was a quiet man, a gentle man, he didn't appreciate that. But he did acknowledge and appreciate the fan base. He did that. You know, I can't say he didn't do that. No. But again, you know, he came from a different era, he was born at the time of Empire.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the first 8 years of his life, maybe longer, maybe 10 years of his life, you know, it was the Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew up, his father being a banker and involved with the court, would go to lunch at the palace. And, you know, now when people think of palaces, they think of Disneyland. And God bless that Disney built us castles that we can go and visit very easily.
That's true.
You know, and my father grew up in a time where going to a palace that's what you did because you could.
Yeah, and I grew up the same way through my grandparents. You know, when Kaiser Wilhelm was in Kaiser Wilhelm I was in power in Germany. So, you know, and it's a whole different mindset.
A completely different mindset.
You know, and if you,
and he never lost it. To the day he died, he flew the Austrian flag up off of the property.
Oh.
Up it went every morning, down it came every evening.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
That's so sweet. I love that.
They're very Austrian, very aristocratic Austrian.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. So now, what do you think is you've acted, you've made
Yep.
films yourself.
Yep.
Did your father kind of lead you that way, or did he let you find your own way?
It was a little mix and match. It was I love the work. I love the curiosity, the discovery, the how to create a character, to do all of those things. I love the behind the scenes or backstage. I love all of the process. What I never particularly cared for, and to this day really don't care for, is all the nonsense that goes with it. The egos and the competitiveness and the fighting and the nastiness that goes on. And I that's not in my character. I am a gentle person also. So I will find my way to do my work, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
Now,
but he was encouraging. I won't say he was discouraging. He was encouraging. He hired me often, and I enjoyed working with him. I enjoyed working with him as an actress, and I enjoyed working with him as his assistant, and I enjoyed working with him as his assistant director.
Mm-hmm. What is the greatest? Well, let's find out here. So, how was Paul Henreid, the director, to Monika, the actress?
Oh, terrific. Absolutely terrific. Because having been an actor, he knew how to talk to actors. So that was the first thing. He was also very good about separating the director from the father. He didn't treat me differently than he treated the other actors.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke gently to everybody. He spoke deliberately, eyeball to eyeball, to everybody. And I must say that for all of the times I've been back on the lot at Warner Brothers, for instance, where he directed a lot, the crew would come up to me, "Oh, working with your father was so wonderful. Oh, working with him was one of the great pleasures of my life." And it didn't matter if it was a grip or some guy hanging in the rafters or the cameraman. Everybody had basically the same experience with him. He was the consummate professional. He knew his stuff. He knew what he was there to do. After dinner, he would say goodnight, and he would disappear into his rooms, and you wouldn't see him again until the morning, and he would spend the evening going over the script and breaking it down and writing out and designing camera angles, doing literally a graphic art project out of every script so that he knew exactly when the camera moved here and there and how many takes. And people who work with someone like that appreciated it.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
they all appreciated it because he never showed up on the job unprepared, ever.
I know so many stuntmen and Western guys who did all those Westerns when your dad was directing. And years ago, when I first met all these guys and they kind of took me under their wing to shepherd me a little bit, they loved your father. When they found out my love of classic film, and I knew I knew who these guys were. I knew the guys that had worked on films with John Wayne. And so they would start telling me all the stories about working with legends like your dad. And I distinctly remember several of them talking about him in conversations we had and how much they loved having him as a director.
Oh, thank you for telling me that. That's so nice.
I mean, it just, and those are the things that I think matter so, so much. For, somebody can have a legacy, but when you have a legacy like that is filled with so much respect and love.
Yes, it's really lovely.
So
really lovely.
What is the greatest thing that you learned from your father, the greatest gift that he gave you?
Well, there are a lot, but the first one that comes to mind is do your homework.
Amen.
And literally, I mean, sure, he meant it for school, but he also meant it in life. Don't be unprepared. Do your homework. There's plenty. If you hear about something that you're interested in, go explore it. Find out what it is. Find out if it works for you. If it's something you really want to do or want to investigate further. Just don't be lazy. Go find out. And if you have a job, oh, please know your job. Do your homework. Learn what it is that your job responsibilities are, because well-rehearsed is well played.
Mm-hmm. So
That's
true.
probably the biggest one. And then his passion for music and food and art, was extraordinary. We never, wherever we went, the first thing was eating. My father was a man, and it was definitely the way to his heart was through his stomach. So it was always we ate well. We went somewhere fabulous to eat, and then it would be to an art gallery, to a museum, to a concert, to a ballet, to some wonderful, cultural, exciting, beautiful event, and that's how we traveled. I mean, and here in Los Angeles as well, we were always involved in the arts, and his passion for that is also a big gift that he gave.
Well, and I want to ask you, because a film of your dad's that I have always been very drawn to is Song of Love, where he plays Robert Schumann, and it always felt to me that role was probably one he was the most comfortable in. And I'm thinking that maybe because of his love of music and art and things like that, that perhaps that really did help influence his performance there.
Well, I don't know that he ever actually said it out loud to me. I don't have that actual remembrance that he did feel that was a favorite or a comfortable or whatever kind of role for him. But I will tell you that Schumann was one of his favorite composers.
Oh.
And there was a lot of Schumann flowing through our house when I was growing up. And I think there was a comfort level there for him. And, of course, he loved working with Kate Hepburn, and Robert Walker, too. So there was a comfort level there all the way around because they, too, were, true professionals, well-studied, well-rehearsed, knew their stuff. And there is a comfort level when you don't get those jolts of surprise when someone shows up that doesn't know their lines or hasn't done their backstory, hasn't done their homework to find out who it is that they're playing.
So now yesterday people were posting on Facebook about Dead Ringer. Okay, now.
Well, talk about contrast. Like there is no direct line from Song of Love to Dead Ringer.
There is no.
Well done.
So, you posted on there that you have in capital letters, many stories about. Was Dead Ringer a curse or a blessing to your dad?
Oh, no. It's wonderful. But my reference on that was whoever had posted prior to that. I love fans. I love and admire how much time they take to read biographies and look up their favorite stars and see how they lived their lives and so on and so forth. But you have to give and take with that, and you have to take it with a pinch of salt because some of these people become legends or legendary because someone else has written something about them, and either it isn't quite accurate or it isn't quite, it's their version. So then it becomes this sort of mythology that is created for certain actors and actresses and directors and musicians and whatever have you. And I get a kick out of it because I don't want to discourage anyone from reading or looking things up and enjoying what they enjoy and telling the stories they love to enjoy. But some of them are just inaccurate, and that's really why I wrote what I wrote.
Well, unfortunately, Monika, I am getting the "we must wrap" because the show is ending sign from Brian. I want to kill him. I want to kill him at this moment. I'd keep going on this show and run it for another hour to talk to you about.
Oh, you're dear. Thank you so much.
You will come back on the show, won't you, Monika?
Absolutely. You keep throwing me the good questions. I'll keep coming up with answers.
Well, now, before we do go, people can, the website for the documentary, so people can go to that because they can also donate to help get you over the editing and the marketing hurdles, too.
Absolutely. And it's really very simple. It's Henreid Beyond Laszlo.com.
And I can't wait. As I said, I can't wait.
You're just a doll. Thank you for that.
Oh, Monica, thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy today. An
You're certainly
absolute
welcome.
joy.
My pleasure. My
And
pleasure.
I look anytime, come back on as you get through your editing process and we're inching away, you know.
Great. My pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Take good care.
I will. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that was Monika Henreid, a joy, working on her father's documentary, Paul Henreid Beyond Victor Laszlo. And yes, we will have Monica back in the future. And you'll be able to watch the video later when we get it up later this week or over the weekend with the show. We'll have all the information there on the website for where you can follow the progress of the documentary. So, I think that's all the time we have, is it not, Brian? He's nodding his head. So, until next week, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.